Hello everyone, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. We're continuing now. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but I'm on holidays now and we're getting near the end of summer. So I've only got a few more videos to make for the expansion sets. And so this is the newest expansion set, and I got to tell you, this one's really cool. It's called Command and Conquer, Commanders of World War II. And it's a global war expansion set for the game 1936 to 1945. And what I really like about this set is it's simple. Not overly simple in that, it's like checkers, like that's not what I mean. I just mean that, like you probably, the first time you play this, you'll have the rules next to you. But the second time you play a game with this set, you probably won't even need the rules. Because for one thing, everybody has the same rules regarding them, and there isn't a million rules that are involved in them. And it's pretty intuitive, you know what I mean? Like you can kind of figure it out. And I only had a couple of questions when I did it, and hopefully I'm going to answer those questions if you're taking a look at this set and you're wondering about a couple of things. But I did my due diligence on this. I was texting Doug, Historical Board Gaming, back and forth a couple times, and then he just ended up calling me and we talked about it for a while and some other things as well. And he self-admittedly is not the rules guy. He said, you really need to talk to Will about these, when I started asking him more questions, not about just about this, but about other things. So I phoned up Will. First time I talked to him, and we had a good long conversation, and he was able to tell me any questions that I had. And really the set is really simple. It's just a couple of questions that I had that, just to fill in the blanks kind of thing. And what he said made perfect sense to me, and it's probably the way I would have played it anyway. So let's get into this and let's just show you what it is. Here, I'll show you what you get with this. Let's just move this back here, and there it is right there. So here we have, these are your Axis commanders. So we've got the Germans in the back row, we've got the Italians over here, and we've got the Japanese. Right here we have the Comintern, and there's 5 of them, and there's a specific number of each. Like there's 5 Cominterns, 6 German, 4 Italians, and 4 Japanese. And then over here we got 4 French, there's 4 British ones, and 1 Anzac, and then there's 6 American ones. And when I say there's a specific number of them, that's because you can't use chips for these. You know what I mean? Like you can only use the number of commanders that are in the set. You can't just say, okay, I need a 5th commander for the Japanese. It doesn't work that way. You can't have more than 4 commanders in the game if you're the Japanese player. And we'll get into that as it goes, but just so you know that it's a specific number of commanders, and you get just the right amount. So let's just take a look at it, and there's page 2. Oh, you know what? Before I do this, let me show you something else here. Recently, I just by signing up online for my bill, I got this thing here. Here, let me just move this back. It's a tablet, right? Like this would be like a mini iPad, but it's some kind of cheap brand. It's my company, my cell phone company, TELUS. They sent it to me for signing up for online billing, and I was planning on doing that anyway. But anyway, this is like, I didn't want to do this on my phone because it would be too small, but look at that. There's the page and there's the page. All I did was I go to the website there. So this would be great. You know how, like, to try to cart around all these papers and get them mixed up, like I've done that for a few games, right? With the Turkey at War, and then the expansion sets that I'm using, just so you can keep referring to them. Wouldn't it be easier if you opened up a bunch of pages on here, and one page for each of the expansion sets that you were using? So I just thought that was cool. Like I didn't know what I was going to do with a tablet, because I already have a laptop and I have a desktop and I've got my phone, and they're all computers, right? So I wasn't going to buy one of these, but if somebody was going to give me one for free, then sure. So rather than using the papers here, let me use the little tablet that I have, just because it's handier. I still would download all the rules and everything and print them off, but this is just handier while I'm playing the game. So let's just take a look at this. Let's move this back over here. So an overview of it. A commander represents a single influential commander as well as their supporting staff and headquarters. So it's not just a dude, right? It's all the infrastructure that that dude has. You know, the little Jeep that he rides around in, and the people that do the paperwork for him, and you know, all that stuff, right? So to acquire these, each nation begins the game with the commanders listed on the commander setup table. And there's two setup tables, one if you're playing 36 and one if you're playing 39. Then after that, here, let me just show you that table there. Oop. Oh, I know where it is. I thought I had it. 1 second here. Oh, here it is. Okay, let me just show you the table here. So, if you're playing 1936, this is the commanders that get put on the board at the start of the game. Like right in 1936, before the game even gets going. Like you get a German commander in Berlin, you get a CCP commander in Communist China. There's a Japanese one in Tokyo, a British one in London, a French one in Paris, an Italian one in Rome, a US one in Washington, D.C., and a KMT one in Nanking. Now you'll notice what's conspicuously absent there is a Soviet commander. And the reason there's no Soviet commander in there is because at the beginning of the war, early on in the war, they didn't have a lot of Russian commanders because Stalin was weird. Let's just say that he was so paranoid that he thought that his generals were after him. So he just kept killing them all, right? They'd take him away and they'd either send him off to Siberia and work in the gulag, or he just flat out kill them. And so that's why there's no Russian commander at the start of the game. And then in the 1939 setup, you do get a Soviet commander. But you also get two German commanders, and then basically the same ones as you got before, or pretty close to it in the same places for the most part. So let's just move this out of here. So that's how you would start the game off. And then after that, each time a player nation comes to be at war with another major power, it acquires a new commander. So let's say you're playing the Germans, and okay, it comes time to attack France. Well, boom, there you go. Germany gets a new commander. And then also France would get a new commander, I suppose. And so would the British would get a new commander, because now they're at war with Germany, right? So as soon as you're at war with a major power, you get a commander for that. And you place the commander at its nation's capital. A nation cannot acquire more commanders than are provided with this set, like I was saying earlier, right? So a British Commonwealth may place its commanders either in London, Calcutta, or Sydney. And there's only one grade commander, so you couldn't have more than one Anzac commander. You could have 4 British commanders and an Anzac commander. So if you wanted, like, I'd put maybe one in Calcutta, and and the other 3 would be probably for Great Britain. But as you'll see, they're not just for land. Like you can put them on boats as well. So I don't know. We'll see how it plays out, right? So the U.S., they can place their commanders in Washington or San Francisco. Now, when you place the original one that you start the game off, he has to go in Washington. But after that, you can put him in either place, Washington or San Francisco. The U.S. and the Soviet Union may designate one of their commanders as KMT, CCP commanders, respectively. They may never be more than one KMT and one CCP commander in play at a time. So you couldn't have 2 KMT commanders, or you couldn't have 2 CCP commanders. You could have one of each in China, but you couldn't have more than one of each at the same time. So how do they move? Let's leave the camera there so we can see how they move. Let's grab a German commander and put him in Berlin here. Okay, so they move 1 land space in combat movement, 6 in non-combat movement. The commander's non-combat movement is always considered to be by air, but it requires no transport. He can rail any distance without using up the rail move. A commander can board any ship or submarine by moving into the space with it. A commander does not take up any space on a transport. Or like if you're the Japanese player, he doesn't take any room up on the Japanese destroyer. You could still put another infantry unit on a Japanese destroyer plus the commander, right? But you could put a commander on a sub, an aircraft carrier, a battleship, whatever kind of boat you want. Okay, so let's just look at the movement of that. So let's move them over here, because this is where you could go into battle. So let's say you're here and you want to attack this space here, right? Let me get my pointer out. So here's the commander. So you could move your commander into this space here, and then move all your other units in as whoever can reach the amount of units that you wanted to attack this space in. That's your combat movement. So now non-combat movement, you can move up to 6 places. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like he could move all the way back here if he wanted to, right? Or you can use your rail movement. So, and the reason you would do that is, let's say like this already in this game belongs to the Axis. So you could rail that guy all the way down, you know what I mean? And that's why you would do that, use the rail instead of his just normal 6 spaces of air movement. Because theoretically, like if you have a Russian commander over here, you could non-combat move him way over here, right? On an unbroken rail line, like as long as you own all those territories along that. And by now, at this point in the videos, you should know what that rail movement is. And if not, then I encourage you to go see my video on rail movement. So anyway, that's how the commanders move. So what do they do now? That's the interesting part. So attack and defense. A commander has no attack or defense abilities and can only modify the attack and defense of other units. He cannot capture a territory or engage in any actions unless stated in this rule set. So you couldn't go in here with a bunch of stuff, like say this guy here, and let's say you took these 2 guys out that are in there, but you lost this guy too. This does not become German, because that guy by himself can't take over the territory. You would have had to have had this guy left. Okay, now you get to keep that territory. Okay, so he doesn't take over a territory. He's just there to modify things. Like he's there to oversee it, right? He's there to command his troops, and it's the troops that would capture the territory. So that's so let's just come over here. I've set a few things up. Okay, so attack and defense. Now you're probably not going to see this many units in Canada and Alaska, right? I just set them up so that because I've got a game going on and I didn't want to move too many units around. So so attack and defense, like I said, that's all he does is he modifies it. Okay, so a commander death. A commander may never be taken as a casualty in combat. A commander that is part of a battle where all units are destroyed must make an escape roll. On a die roll of 1 to 11, the commander escapes and can be placed in any land zone up to 4 zones away. On a roll of 12, he is eliminated. If the commander is in a surrounded city, special fortification zone, or on a naval unit, he is eliminated on a roll of 5 to 12. So let's say that this is the Japanese zone here. Let me just grab a couple of things to make that easier to see. And then we'll get a couple of commanders in play, and we'll show you how it all works. Okay, a couple of Japanese flags. And Japanese commander. So let's just say that this isn't Canada, this is somewhere else on the board, right? And you've got a commander in here. There's your Japanese commander. Remember, he can't capture any territory. He's just there to make everybody else +1, either on attack or defense. Now let's get ourselves an American commander as well. So we've got a commander on both sides there. Okay. Like I said, commander. Now, in order for the commander to die, everybody must be wiped out. So all of these units must be taken off the board first, and then your commander, he doesn't defend after that. He's okay. All the other guys are dead. Okay, so now what happens is if the Americans had attacked these guys, okay, so the commander is left. Now let's see if he escapes. So you have to roll the dice, the 12-sided dice, and if you got a 1 to 11, which is pretty likely, then he can move up to 4 spaces away. Let's just say, okay, I'm going to move him down here, right? Can you see that? I just moved him 1 space away, but he could move up to 4 spaces. If you roll a 12, boom, he's dead. You take him off the board. So, replacement. If a nation's commander is eliminated, the nation may make a die roll during its place units phase and attempt to replace the fallen commander. If a player rolls a 7 to 12 on a d12, a new commander is placed in an eligible location. And remember the eligible location, like for this Japanese guy, it's only Tokyo. For the British, there was 3 different locations, and for the Americans, it was San Francisco or Washington. Otherwise, it's the nation's capital, such as Berlin or Rome, right? Or Moscow. So that's how you die, and that's how you would get him replaced. And the only way you would get him in the beginning is either at the start of the game, or if you went to war with a major power, then you get a new one. But like I said, with the Japanese, you'll never get more than 4. So they start with the game with 1. Once they're at war with the Americans, the Americans, the French, and the British, then there's their 4 right there. And then after that, it's just a matter of, okay, this guy died, now I got to try to replace him. So you didn't replace him this turn, well, you try again next turn. You try to roll that 7 to 12 on the next turn. So what does a commander do? A commander only affects units from his nation, including the aligned minors. A commander provides his bonus to 1 battle each turn. So this guy here, let's say these guys are going to have a battle. Who should we make the aggressor here? Let's make the Americans the aggressor into this Japanese territory. The Americans are attacking this territory. So so you provide a bonus to 1 battle each turn. So it's going to be this battle for this American commander, and obviously this Japanese commander is going to apply his bonus as well. And that's important to note, because there's a couple ways you can use these commanders. Yeah, both of these commanders right now. Yeah, well, the attacker, let's say. But if either one was on offense, there's 2 ways you could use the commanders, and I'll show you what that is in 1 second. Let me just finish this off. He could not direct aircraft to one zone and then participate in battle in another zone on the same turn. A commander increases the attack and defense values of each unit as outlined below. So land units. A commander adds a +1 attack and defense to all land and air units that are in the same zone as him. So there you go. All these guys here, remember he's got a movement of 1. Let's say all of these guys have moved up 1. Then all of these guys would get +1 to attack this. Okay? And then all of these guys that are in here, they've got a commander as well. So they would all be +1 on defense. For instance, this fighter here normally defends at 6. Well, now he's going to defend at 7, right? I think that's what a fighter is. Hang on a second. Defense. Fighter. Yeah, I guessed right. Okay, so, and that's land units, air units. A commander may add +1 to each dice of all aircraft that leave the land zone during combat movement. This includes combat movement, interception, and each die rolled in strategic bombing. So, let's say instead that let's move this Japanese factory to here, okay? Can you see that? Oh yeah, okay. I had to take a look at the screen, make sure that was on there. Okay, so what you could do, let's say this guy is here as well. So this guy decides to come down here, and he's brought an escort with him, okay? And then these guys have all decided to attack here as well, right? So all of these guys are moving in like this, and the plane. So you have to make a choice. Now, do I leave the commander here and apply that +1 to these planes that went on the strategic bombing mission, or do I move the commander in and take part in this and make all of these guys +1, including the medium bomber, right? You can't fly your planes off one direction and add the +1 and then also participate in a land battle. You have to decide. So he could choose instead to make these +1 and make these at even, not +1, right? So it's up to you to decide which way you're going to go. You know what I mean? But anyway, if you do it with the air units, then it works in all cases, whether that's strategic bombing, interception, escorting, any type of air operation that you do. It's +1 on attack or defense if you have a commander, whether the commander is in there with you or whether you designate that because he came from the same zone as the commander. And that's the key, right? Like this plane started here, so he could go and attack the factory over here, and that would make him +1 if you designated him +1. So you make a choice, but you can't choose both. For me, I would say I'd probably go here, right? Because they've got a significant amount of resources over here, and there's more units to add +1 to. I don't know, that's what I would do. Okay, so that's air units. Naval units. A commander on a naval unit, surface ship or submarines, add +1 to the die roll of all surface ships, submarines, and aircraft in this zone, including all rating die rolls, or a +1 to the dice of all aircraft that leave this zone. Commanders do not modify shore bombardment. So the only thing that these guys don't modify is shore bombardment. In every other case, they are going to modify, including convoy rating, including, as I already mentioned, the strategic bombing convoy rating. It's going to take part in ships. So what you would have to say where these things are, okay? Because that makes a difference too, right? If that particular ship where this guy is gets sunk, then the commander dies, right? You would think, unless you'd have to kill all the boats in that, and then the commander dies. I guess I should ask that question, shouldn't I? So let's just say this guy is on a boat in here, and then we've got the Japanese commander, and he's on a boat over here. We've got the Super Yamato over here. And let's say this time the Japanese are going to attack the Americans. So the Americans are right here. That's my little marker there that we're using. And all those boats over there are right here. So then the Japanese come in, and they can, let's say they want to bring in everybody here to attack the Americans. And the Americans are too strong, but you have to suspend your belief in reality, saying maybe there's not as many Americans there as it looks. And again, you'd have to make a choice like we did over there. Do you want, say you were making this attack over here, you could fly this guy over here. Is that guy going to be +1 using the commander? Or are you going to do your +1 over here? You can't do both, right? You can't say I'm going to do +1 here and +1 on that plane because he left the zone where the commander was. You got to pick one or the other. So in this case here, I would probably just go like that and send everybody in there, and then use your commander. Everybody that attacks at +1, and because the Americans have one, they defend at +1. If the Americans didn't have one, then the Japanese would be +1. The Americans would be straight up even. Whatever it says on the battle card, that's what you would go with on that. So that is naval units. And like I was saying, if you were using them for convoy raiding, let's say this guy's going to raid a convoy down there, and then the American, let's put this guy on escort duty right here. So you're gonna hit the American convoy. If you had the American on this ship right over there, then he would be +1 in his defending the convoy. So it works in convoy. The only thing it does not work on, and I'll stress that again, the only thing it does not work on is shore bombardment. So your battleship isn't going to shoot the shore at 5 instead of 4. It's still going to be 4. So that's the only one. Okay, so what else do we got? We got the setups here. Okay, the expansion compatibility, that's the only thing left here. And see what I mean? It's pretty simple. Like I've just explained the whole thing. The only thing left is the expansion sets. So if you're playing with going nuclear, the commanders do not modify the effect of nuclear weapons. If you're playing with the Netherlands expansion set, or Turkey at war, like I like to play with, if you run these nations independently, they don't use commanders. If you're playing winter war, that's the one with Finland, then an independent Finland may benefit from the effects of a German commander. Manchukuo. Manchukuo units may benefit from the effects of Japanese commanders. The ordnance sets 1, 2, and 3, that's not going to modify those weapons. If those weapons hit at a 4, they're still going to hit at a 4. The commander's not going to change them. If you're playing with the partisan set, the CCP partisans may benefit from the effects of their commander and are not eliminated by the presence of a friendly land unit. And if you're playing with the Spanish Civil War set, the Nationalist and Republican forces may benefit from the effects of foreign commanders if their nations elect full intervention. But they have to elect that full intervention. They can't just get it. I think I missed something here. Let me just look around where it is. It's in here somewhere anyway. Like it's like in the rules there where you can't defend in a mountain city and use the bonus +1 from the mountain infantry and the bonus +1 from being in a city. You have to choose one or the other. So it's the same in this. So in this battle here, with the Americans attacking, and this is interesting. This is why I had to talk to Will, because like here, this mountain infantry for the Japanese, he's got, where's my Japanese? I took my commanders out. Where are they? There he is. Okay, with the Japanese commander and the American commander in here. Now, you have to choose which one you're going to use, which modifier, right? Because you can't use 2 modifiers. Otherwise, like if you're defending a mountain city with a commander in it, then you're +3, and that just starts getting ridiculous. These are almost guaranteed hits kind of thing, and that's why the rules don't allow you to do that. Will was explaining the thought process behind all this. So if you're attacking this mountain territory, then this guy here, this mountain infantry, would normally attack at +1, right? He's modified to +1 because it's a mountain territory. So you can only use that, or you could use your commander, right? Which is +1. So you're not going to go to +2 with the mountain infantry. However, if you're attacking into a mountain, then with a regular infantry, then you would normally be -1. Well, you're going to elect to use the commander in that case. So you would be going in at 0. Like you'd be rolling a 2 on your attack, just as you normally would, rather than rolling -1. So you're not going to get the bonus for this guy because you can only choose one bonus, and it doesn't matter which bonus in this case what you choose. It could matter in a different case what you choose. So you can't choose a city bonus and choose to use the commander as well. You have to do one or the other. Now, one of the big questions I had was, what about the elite of the Reich? Here, let me just grab some of those guys. Or maybe I put them away. Yeah, they're not here. They're somewhere. Okay, so with the elite of the Reich set, those guys are generally +1, right? And there's all kinds of different units. There's infantry, there's mountain infantry, there's this, there's that. And I said, what about those guys? Like, why would you even play that set if you could nullify all of that with an opposing commander? All of those guys are gonna be +1. So what's the point of having all those? He goes, that's not the same thing. You do get to use the commander combined with the +1 that you get with the SS units. And the reason for that is the SS unit is not a modifier. Those SS units are the base unit of an infantry is actually a 3-5 unit, like attack 3, defend 5. It's not like a regular infantry where it's 2-4, attack 2, defend 4. The base unit is a 3-5. It's not a modified unit. That's an SS unit, and he normally attacks at 3-5. So you throw a commander in there, that makes it 4-6. Attack at 4, defend at 6. So if you have something that is normally that's the base unit, then you can modify that with a commander. And I would assume that would be the same. If you're using I'm trying to think here, like the weapons that you get, the special weapons, those things would be base units, right? Like say you've got a heavy armor, you're not adding 2 to your tank is already 2, or whatever it is, right? It's not modified. The tank is just that good of a tank. And the same with the SS units. The SS units already fight at that. They're not +1 because they're in a mountain, or because they're in a city, or because of any other reason. They're +1 just because they're that good of a fighter, or they're that good of a unit in this game. So it would not be +1 for that reason. And that was, I'm glad that I talked to him, because that's an interesting explanation, rather than just, wondering to myself, well, why that, why not the mountain? Because I thought they were modified. They're not modified. They're just that good. That's what those units are. And speaking of which, Doug texted me a picture, because I asked him what's coming, soon, like as far as expansion sets. That Elite of the Reich set that I showed you there a few videos back, really cool set. One of the next sets that is coming out is a Russian Guard set, and it's like that, where it's got the specific Russian Guard units, and you'll acquire them in a specific way, kind of like you do with the Elite of the Reich. So I was wondering at the end of that video that I did, how is this fair to everybody else? Having all these SS against like who's going to want to attack Germany? Well, there you go. Russians are going to have a set like that as well. So that's one of the things that's coming in the future. I don't know when. I would assume sometime this winter. Hopefully by Christmas, Doug. General Hand Grenade needs a new set by Christmas for sure. And he told me about a few other things, but I'm not going to tell you that now. It's not my business. That's his business to do that. So that's it, Commanders. I really love this set. I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be easy to play, but it's going to make things interesting because you only get a certain amount of them. It's not like you can slap down 30 Commanders on the board and just be +1 everywhere you go. You're going to have to make choices, right? You're only going to have a certain number of Commanders, and so you're going to play to your strengths there. Where do I need my Commanders? You know what I mean? There's good opportunity to move them a long ways. 6 on non-combat movement, that's pretty good. So you can move your Commanders around and you can use them. And I think you're going to like it too. So it's not an expensive set. So if I was you, if you play this game, that's one expansion set that I would get. Even if you don't have any other sets, that one would be a good one. Oh, it's like the partisan set. Everybody gets to use them. You know what I mean? The partisans are a little more complicated though. Like you still have to carry around the rules for that. This one, I think a second time, you probably wouldn't even need the rules. You might have to go back to them once an argument starts. No, that's not what it said. But I don't think you're going to need to walk around with them because it's pretty simple. It's +1 and you can't stack them on everything except for shore bombardment. So pretty easy to figure out. Anyway, that's it for this video. I also have the Oil War set. I don't think I'll get to it today. I got a little bit later start than I wanted to. I had to make a few phone calls, and I'm trying to set up my trip. I'm heading out to Rank Carcass's place in Edmonton. I'm going to spend a few days in the Rocky Mountains. I've been through there a million times, but I've never actually stopped to smell the coffee. So I'm gonna go in there and smell the coffee, and I'm gonna go visit my dad in Calgary, and I'm gonna head to Rank Carcass's place. But before that, I'm going to make a couple of videos. I'll probably make a Netherlands set video. Ordnance. I haven't done an ordnance video, so I'll probably do one of those. But the next one I think is going to be Oil Wars, and I would guess it's probably going to be tomorrow. So, take care everyone. General Hand Grenade out.